Hey guys. I was working on a script about Ivanka Trump, which you voted to be my next video on Twitter, when news of these terrorist attacks in London broke and compelled me to change direction. But the video on Ivanka will be my next video. News is still coming in, so I'm sure the story may change a bit, but there has been a truck attack on the London Bridge with at least one confirmed fatality. Shots were fired at the scene, and there were victims suffering from knife wounds, so it appears that after the truck attack, the perpetrators got out and went on a killing spree. There was also a second incident in Borough Market where several people were stabbed. Once again, this is just coming in and may have changed by the time the video gets uploaded, but outside of the number of fatalities and injuries, and which of the usual 5 Muslim nations of origin that the perps or their parents turn out to originate from, I likely have almost all of the necessary information already. I think it's safe to say that the assumption I'm about to make applies to all of the perpetrators. They're Muslim men, relatively young, felt disconnected and restless. They were ripe for radicalization. They hated the West, yet partook in its culture, particularly taking advantage of its degeneracy. And in an act that they believe will seal their fate as martyrs, shot, stabbed, or mowed down a bunch of innocent, helpless people in London today. I am tired of this. I'm tired of waking up every morning and wondering what horrific news I will have to ingest with my breakfast. I'm tired of not even being interested in the details of a terrorist attack anymore because I know exactly what happened. And so long as the populace rejects that Islam is the culprit, the details don't really matter anyway because I know, and I'm tired of this as well, that nothing will change. I'm also tired of being afraid to be in crowded places and to get on trains and subways. And I'm tired of having an ever-present underlying fear when I'm traveling. I was staying in the 10th district in Paris in November 2015, 1 week before the series of terrorist attacks that included the Bataclan. And I remember thinking while sitting in a cafe, someone could just come in here and shoot all of us. 1 week later, this happened in Paris. Similarly, when I was in Sweden in February, I remember walking down the very street on which the Stockholm truck attack happened, thinking, this would be a perfect place for an attack. I'm not telling you this because I'm boasting about my foresight. I'm telling you this because these attacks are so unsurprising, they've become so familiar, that they can be sensed and predicted ahead of time with chilling accuracy. When people are in a palpable amount of danger, the tenor of a city or a town changes. People are withdrawn, distrustful. There's fear in the air, which may be why I could sense that terrorist attacks were going to happen. That, and I was surrounded by Muslims the whole time. And they happen in routine frequency. The people in Western Europe, understandably so, want to mitigate the chance that they and their loved ones are killed in a terrorist attack, while maintaining enough political neutrality that they don't become pariahs in their own communities. So people stay in their homes, they circle the wagons with those that they can trust, and they leave the cities to the people destroying them. The great irony of all of this is that Muslims will turn beautiful cities that for centuries have been jewels of the Western world into impoverished shitholes devoid of basic human rights, just like those from which they came. They will do this by the institution of Sharia law. There are already more than 85 Sharia courts in the UK, and by the continuation of this narrative that Muslims are the victim of Western oppression. Perhaps there's some solace in this. Even if the West is defeated, Islamic culture will never catch up to the modern world, let alone advance it, because their worldview is restrictive, so their capabilities are limited. There are no such intellectual constraints in a free society. I am tired of saying that Islam is our enemy. Islam would be nothing but an idle philosophy without participants, and we can no longer separate this doctrine from those that practice it. We rarely make such concessions for other beliefs or faiths. No one would ever say that Nazism is a bad idea or philosophy, but those that practice it do not embody it, and that Nazis and Nazism are separate entities entirely. Perhaps you could make a somewhat convincing case that Christians often don't embody the philosophy of Christianity, but there is genuine secularism in Christianity because of an era of enlightenment and reformation that has been entirely absent from Islam. There is no moderate Islam. It is extreme, violent, oppressive, and hateful at its very core. If you subscribe to its principles, you are an extremist. And if you claim to be a moderate, but are not trying to secularize the Muslim community from within, then you are an enemy of the West. I will start believing in moderate Muslims when I see people like Ayaan Hirsi Ali accepted by their community despite her legitimate criticisms of Islam. Instead, she has a fatwa on her and is despised by Muslims and the left for her apostasy. Or I'll change my mind when the opinions of your average British Muslim change. Most of us by now are familiar with the very extensive Gatestone Institute survey, which questioned a huge sample of British Muslims. The surveyors discovered that over 100,000 British Muslims sympathize with suicide bombers. They also discovered that only 1 in 3 British Muslims, 34%, would contact the police if they believed that somebody close to them had become involved with jihadists. And this is what Muslims are admitting. I've linked the study below for you to check out yourself. The most noteworthy findings, although not particularly surprising, are that more than half of British Muslims, 52%, think homosexuality should not be legal, and 23% of British Muslims believe that Sharia law should replace British law in areas with large Muslim populations. So here we have over half of British Muslims saying that a sexual lifestyle should be made illegal by the government because of its religious implications, and presumably punishable by death or beating like in many Muslim countries. Additionally, we have about a quarter of British Muslims saying that the native rule of law should be totally abolished in heavily Muslim areas in favor of an archaic system of rules where minor crimes are also punishable by death. Yet this survey also shows that 88% of British Muslims believe Britain is a good place for Muslims to live. That is because Brits are so tolerant and will allow Muslims to institute Sharia courts in their country, to groom their young white girls to be sex slaves for older Muslims, and this is still going on. All the while, Brits blame themselves and continue to think enough flogging will help them atone for some vague ancestral sin. Muslims will reject our values, our culture, our traditions, all the while not just enjoying, but flagrantly exploiting the tolerance that we stupidly afford them. We will see the same shit over and over as these attacks continue to happen weekly and increase in frequency and magnitude. Manchester was 12 days ago, 12 days. There was an attack on Westminster Bridge in March. The Berlin truck attack on Christmas. The Stockholm truck attack was in April. Also in April was the metro bombing in St. Petersburg and the Paris shooting on the Champs-Élysées. I didn't even mention everything from this year. This is what escalation looks like. And each time we see the same trite reaction. Everyone tweets that they're praying for the people involved and a coordinated effort to protect Muslims goes into effect, like they're in immediate danger of Christian or Western persecution. I am sure by the time I post this, there will be a Not All campaign already in full swing. It is far past the day that we should have decided who we are. Are we a people that actually care about human rights, women's rights, or gay rights? Are we a society that values individualism and merit? The rejection of religion if we so choose? Are we a society that affords its citizens the right to choose their own destiny? I think that Western societies do embody these principles, and we were built upon them. Yet trying to extend the benefits of living under these principles to people so unlike us, who have a worldview in direct contradiction to everything that we hold dear, endangers and weakens us. Because of our tolerance, this is not just our life now, but it is our future. Months ago, I asked, what will it take for Europeans to push back? I hypothesized that it would have to get so much worse and anticipated another few months and years of escalating, intermittent terrorist attacks with a mounting body count. I am sorry to see that I am correct and I will be correct. But as I stated in that video, these small attacks will not generate a public outcry. Manchester feels like an eternity ago. People have already forgotten it. And nothing will change because of this attack. Things will change when Islam is universally acknowledged as the primary motivation for terrorism, and we go about combating the ideology and taking back our homelands. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.